If you just so happen to have 37.5 million gold burning a hole in your pocket, allow me to introduce you to the Dark Adventurer Shipset. By far the most expensive drip you can put on your vessel, this edgy collection of cosmetics exists solely to broadcast to the world just how wealthy you truly are. And I was gonna purchase it. The only problem, I was about 10 million gold shy of being able to afford it. Which begs the question, what is the best way to make a lot of gold in a short period of time? That's what I needed to find out, and fast. Today we are going to be checking out a variety of different 2024 gold farming methods to see which one is going to get me to my Dark Adventurer dreams. The good news, it just so happens to be Gold and Glory weekend, meaning we are going to be enjoying a generous 2x multiplier on any item we sell. But before I show you how to make money in the game, it is time for me to pay my rent. This video is sponsored by GamerSupps and their collection of waifu cups, because what better way to enjoy your anime girl thigh beverage than by drinking it out of a cup featuring said anime girls. Okay, listen, I know calling an energy drink anime girl thigh sounds like a meme, but it unironically actually tastes good. Though personally, I'm more of a caffeine-free blowhole blast enjoyer myself. Point being, GamerSupps keeps releasing new waifu designs for you to snag, and it just so happens that they are launching a new one today. Introducing Eshi-sama, the painting waifu. A piece of art of somebody creating a piece of art? No, this is cinema. In this house, we fly the flag of the GamerSupps waifu nation, and you can too, at a discount no less. You can save 10% on your order simply by going to gamersupps.gg/Cliff or using code CLIFF at checkout. Just like all of their designs, this is a limited run, and it is launching today, so if this one piques your interest, you know where to go. And now that I've filled my pockets in real life, it is time to do so in the game as well. But just to put into perspective how difficult this goal is to reach, this is the reaction of the first person I met after I told them what I had in mind. I'm trying to make 10 million gold in 2 days. Yeah, right. It was not looking good for me, but one thing after another. I had a long day ahead of me, so I decided to kick off my session with a chill commodity run. Buying commodities of every merchant at every outpost was flying under the flag of the Merchant Alliance to eventually sell all of them at Morrow's Peak. Usually you'd want to separate them by type and then sell them for maximum profit at specific locations, but since we got a 2x multiplier, I didn't mind losing some of that profit in the name of expediency. And naturally, the longer this run takes, the less profitable it would be compared to many other gold farming methods, some of which we're going to explore later. Which is why it was very fitting that my commodity run was interrupted by another sloop. Recruiting somebody who lets their cannons do the talking was gonna be rather difficult, so replying with an equal amount of aggression was in order. I mean, seriously, I was blowing through a bunch of high quality food just in an attempt to get him to negotiate, but alas, the only thing he wanted to hear were the sweet tunes of the ferryman. Now, sinking a sloop that only has a singular upper deck hole takes absolute ages, and since it doesn't take a gold curse to one-shot somebody by accident with a blunderbuss, I figured that dropping his loot overboard would serve me well should I find my unfortunate demise, which is exactly what happened, of course. Obviously, he would use that opportunity to get his boat moving again, though since he just got spawn camped for minutes on end, I really was not expecting him to make any attempt to retrieve it. But you know, he really wanted to make sure I got to collect all of his treasure and not just the pieces I tossed overboard. Spending all this time on a single encounter really did not bode well for the profitability of my commodity run, which is one of the risks you take when using this method. A saving grace was that the sloop I aligned with at the start of my session began selling a bunch of their treasure, and the fact that this dude not only had a lot of supplies but also a bunch of loot. Enough so for me to get my emissary flag to its maximum rank 5, allowing me to go for an intermittent sell before reaching Morrow's Peak. And the results? We have made so far 338,000 golds. Nice. Not a bad start an hour into my grind, but it still felt like a drop in the bucket next to the 10 million gold I had to earn to reach my goal. Not to be discouraged, I continued purchasing more commodities, recruited a new player into my alliance, and had a bit of a run-in with a brigantine that seemed to want to attack me, but then said haha JK in form of a white flare. However, those same players decided to start a Fort of the Damned. Was I going to abandon my commodity run just to take a 3v1 in hopes of stealing an FOTD when most of the treasure inside the vault does not even get boosted by the merchant emissary flag? Of course not. I'm not an idiot. Or at least not that much of an idiot. Wait, it is active again. They are stacking. Okay, that changes things. Suddenly, 3v1 did not sound like that bad of an idea. If I could steal an FOTD stack from somebody, that would certainly make for a very profitable use of my time. And since I had just finished my commodity run with a total of 555,000 gold made, I no longer needed my Merchant Alliance flag, replacing it for the Reaper variety. All that was left to do was take out that brigantine. Now, old Cliff would have definitely had a lot of trouble with this, but since this is post-Hourglass Grind Cliff, this skeleton guy, I delivered an absolute clinic. Changed out their masks to make sure they can't run away, tossed down bone collars to keep them occupied, take out crew member number 1, followed by his identical twin, and boom, the fort was mine. And because I am the best helm in the game, of course my ship perfectly circled the island to come back just in time to pick me up. And for the cherry on top, I knew I heard something. Man, past me will be so proud right now. With a rank 5 emissary and a boatload of treasure on my ship, I headed to the Reaper's hideout for a big payday. I had just got my hands on 800,000 gold worth of stolen loot, putting me at 1.3 million gold made within a couple of hours. At that point, my confidence was at an all-time high. The Fort of the Damned truly is one of the best ways to make a lot of money in a short period of time, because you can stack it as often as you want, provided you can fend off other hungry pirates. So I figured if I can steal a stack, surely I can create one myself. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to finally bestow upon you the knowledge of how to stack the Fort of the Damned. Now, starting an FOTD is not much of a challenge if you are a pirate legend. All you have to do is complete the Athena quest for Skull of Destiny, use it to light the braziers, plop it onto the altar, and then get to destroying some skeletons. But when you're trying to stack it, things get a little more complicated. By the way, if you're not a pirate legend yet, don't worry, I got the perfect video for you on how to make your first million gold even without any of these endgame voyages. And I'm gonna link it at the end of the episode. Anyway, the brigantine I sank had 4 of these skulls left by the time I intercepted them, meaning I could skip the first step. But before I started the event, it was important to prepare a keg wall. Every fort in the game spawns with a total of 10 kegs by default. At the Fort of the Damned specifically, you can put them into this specific wall where nobody's going to be able to interact with them. So not only can you use them to blow up the boss, but you also don't leave any explosives for potential tuckers to use against you. As for the event itself, it's a fairly standard affair of you defeating shadow skeletons that require specific colored lights to defeat. The grate for the color that you need will light up at the start of a new wave, so you can pick it up, shine it on your prey, and then take them out. Eventually, the boss is going to spawn, at which point you run down to your keg wall, wait for the appropriate time to shoot, and enjoy the fireworks as you one-shot his ugly mug. Now, usually, you'll be detonating the stronghold gunpowder kegs inside before collecting your treasure, just to make sure nobody can use them against you. However, because we want to stack the event rather than cashing out immediately, we are not going to do that. Instead, we'll take the kegs and put them up on this chain. It's gonna make sense later why we do that. As for the rest of the loot, we're gonna keep it safe on this barrel to make room for the new treasure to spawn upon another completion. Now, all you want to take out is a single regular gunpowder keg to detonate the ones on the chain from the top of the dance floor. Personally, I like this crate as a hiding spot. One quick horizon check and we're off to the races. From here on out, it really isn't that different from any other FOTD run, except you cannot use any sort of fire or blunderbombs on the dance floor. And also, you have to make sure that none of the keg skeletons detonate inside, and sometimes that is easier said than done. Shit. Shit! Ooh, okay. Granted, it does make the run a little more stressful, especially when it comes to the stronghold gunpowder kegs wave near the end of the encounter. That thing has a massive blast radius, so you really don't want it going off at the wrong time. Though in all of these mishaps, I forgot to do one important thing: keeping an eye on the horizon. Oh, come on. Obviously, the longer you stay on a server, the higher the chances of somebody making you their target. And when a galleon decides that your stacking days are over, there are very few things you can do to convince them otherwise. And it definitely does not help when the game does not work properly. Your gun refuses to shoot and your opponent begins teleporting around your vessel, all on top of a 4v1. Let's check in with Past Me on how he felt about this at the time. I am extremely annoyed. A surprising amount of composure for somebody currently knee-deep in seawater. Naturally, what had to happen did eventually happen, because even a broken clock is right twice every day, and the dude one-blundered me. But I wasn't worried. What, can I not sink a galleon of console players? I am Cliff the gosh dang skeleton guy. I didn't go through my hourglass arc just to get beaten by these guys. Unfortunately, it was not just them that I was fighting. Next to constant rubber banding, there also was the Storm, a Kraken, a skeleton ship, a brigantine, which I sank of course, and last but not least... Oh cool, my game crashed. Sick! Woo! Shout out to Rare! Yeah! Game crashing! Needless to say that my composure was gone, and with it, any hopes of me reclaiming my FOTD stack from that cowardly galleon. No matter how often I caught up to them, they would just continue to run away into the storm, where they knew that I, as a solo, could not properly fight them. So instead of wasting my time farming clips on these guys, I decided to go to the Devil's Roar. You know my mental is at an all-time low when I go to the Roar in order to calm down. I spent the rest of day 1 doing Order of Souls voyages and digging up treasure maps before spending all of my doubloons to turn them into gold, which added another 3 million gold to my tally. Basically, I had 1 day left to make another 4 million gold, and since the majority of my earnings today came from me selling all of my doubloons, that was gonna be very difficult. But thankfully, I was not out of options just yet. Day 2. It was time to raise the emissary flag of Athena's fortune because we were going to try another Pirate Legend exclusive gold farming method, the Legend of the Veil. Now, if you ever wondered what's the point of getting Pirate Legend, it's basically this voyage. I'd say this is the best quest in the game, wasn't it for the fact that there's no option to skip the dialogue. Big oversight for repeatable content if you ask me. Anyway, what matters is not how annoying Pirate Santa is, but how much he pays us to work for him. So after fighting some phantoms, searching sunken vessels for lost cargo, and blowing up a literal fortress, yeah, this voyage is pretty cool, we were presented with our reward. Now, this might not look like a lot at first, but these items sell for a lot of money. Plus, every Legend of the Veil completion guarantees a grade 5 emissary standing by the end of it. So you can see why this becomes the go-to money farm for a lot of pirates. After selling my spoils, I went to pick up my emissary quest, which unlocks every time you hit rank 5. Those can reward even more high-value items like an Athena gunpowder barrel and yet another chest of legends. The only problem is that you get a lot of different objectives on a lot of different islands, and that makes it a bit of a drag. A few hours in with a couple runs of these, I found myself at a bit of a crossroads. Still not at 1,000,000. Nah, screw this. I'm gonna try Fort of the Damned again. The end of Gold and Glory was but a few hours away, and I was still 3 million gold away from finishing my grind. At this rate, I would not be able to afford the Dark Adventurer Shipset, so I did the only thing that seemed reasonable. Dig up a Skull of Destiny, set up a keg wall, and go again. And I mean, yeah, I was starting to get this thing down to a science. By the way, did you know that a chest of legends only sells for half as much to the Reapers as they would to Athena's fortune? The prestige item of their literal sworn rivals? Yeah, that's kinda stupid. Anyway, unfortunately I could never complete as many as 2 runs without somebody butting in to stop me. The hours went by and I spent more time trying to defend my stack than adding more loot to it, and that was frustrating. There's only so much I could do as a solo against all these brigantines and galleons trying to ruin my plans. Though in fairness, this duo sloop kind of made my day. Okay, listen, I don't have to sink you. I took your stuff, that's all I wanted. But if you keep shooting, if you keep attacking, I'm gonna have to sink you.
I kill you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, kill me, let's go. I commend their tenacity. Needless to say that abandoning my FOTD in favor of hunting down ships my own size was not the most profitable thing I could spend my time on. Though when life gives you lemons... Hold up, every ship on the server is currently at the FOTD of the Damned. So that means I can do the Fort of Fortune in peace? Thank you, Rare. Thank you for finally throwing me a bone. Hell yeah. The only mistake I made at that point was assuming that Rare was on my side. Huh? Wait, what? What do you mean skeleton fort complete? You can't just despawn that in front of my face! I'm here! Come on, Rare! It was then that I realized my effort was in vain. 10 hours of grinding came to an end with me merely picking up scraps from other boats. 2 days, a 2x multiplier, and I was still 1,000,000 gold shy of my goal. But you know what? I had not given up on stacking FOTD yet. I knew what I had to do. It was time to call in the reinforcements. Ah, there he is, the golden boy.
Yo, it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm willing to admit that summoning your gold cursed buddies in response to getting attacked by bigger ships is kinda like calling your cousins to beat up somebody because they beat you at rock, paper, scissors. But desperate times ask for desperate measures. At this stage, I was exactly 1,000,000 gold away from being able to buy the entire Dark Adventurer Shipset. Honestly, that kind of money is pretty easy to come by as displayed by the previous methods I've shown, but I wanted to make a point. The point that I can in fact stack some treasure. So in a move that is entirely overkill, I have called upon Toxie and Sea Roar on the second day of Season 12's Community Weekend. By that point, the community flag was already at max level, meaning we will get to enjoy an even bigger multiplier than in Gold and Glory. All we had to do now was grab a bunch of Skulls of Destiny, which, by the way, you can just keep resetting the voyage until you get the same island that you're already on. And we were off to the races. I even got 2 entire storage crates filled with high-quality supplies and cursed cannonballs before they logged in. Though as the only non-gold curse haver in this crew, I was gonna be subject to at least some amount of ridicule. Wait, no, that's not how that works. No. You chose that one, so you get what's inside there.
The gold ghost makes the decisions around here. That's how it goes.
We're on my ship, Toxie.
Who's got higher hourglass level?
Oh my god, fine.
Is it me? Is it me?
I'm getting on the fort. I'm getting on the fort. I'm not having this conversation.
Me as the golden ghost, I'm gonna tell you how to do this.
Oh my god! I've done a Fort of Fortune before, you guys know that! I would lie if I said I did not kind of deserve that. After all that shit I was talking about getting better at PvP, and now once again I need to call up my gold besties to help me out. Some things never change, I suppose. The goal for the day was stacking 10 FOTDs, and I mean, the difference was night and day. In the first place, just being on a bigger ship seemed to scare off a lot of potential troublemakers, and for the ones that did try to challenge us, we were absolutely destroying them. Gold curse equals level 1000 in the PvP faction, don't forget. So I'm not gonna bore you with us mindlessly slaughtering skeletons for hours on end. In fact, we ended up so bored ourselves that we began a bit of a competition, seeing who could speedrun the fort on their own the fastest. And I mean...
What the no? What?
Oh,
okay,
no.
Okay, who did this?
Unsurprisingly, I won that competition by a country mile. Guess that gold curse does not help you get better at PvE. All that is to show that stacking can be really boring. We actually welcome pretty much any ship that tried to mess with us just to break the monotony of the grind. And let's just say that somebody was being a bit of a sore loser about the whole losing the speedrun competition thing. Everything was going well. Zero was currently on a sloop that tried to attack us, while Toxie and I were collecting the last few pieces of treasure out of our 10 stack. Until...
Oh god! There's a gather!
Our sails dropping. We were caught with our pants down. Having literally just fought off a sloop, we were not expecting a brigantine to follow on its heel. And because we had such a ludicrous amount of treasure on our boat, everyone in the area was experiencing much longer black screens than usually, which also included Sea Roar, who was currently not on our ship. By the time I finally got to see the light of day, our brigantine had sunk, with the two of them trying to fight off the attackers. Now this was the definition of a lose-lose situation. Obviously, Toxie and Zero could not just let them have the treasure because they used their brigantine warp speed to go and sell it before we could intercept them. But because they were getting spawn camped, that crew also did not have a chance to harpoon all the loot from the water. By the time I brought back our ship, a lot of the loot was already starting to sink, and we could not do anything about that until we had dealt with the attacker. Once disposed of, we were trying to save as much of the treasure as possible, but unfortunately, a lot of it had already disappeared. But hey, we still have the community weekend multiplier, right? And all I need is just 1 more million gold. Sure, we couldn't get to cash in the entire 10 stack, but we remained hopeful that what we saved could still push us over the finish line. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We did it!
Let's go!
Let's freaking go!
We are literally on the dot 1 million for this haul. This was it. In a stroke of dumb luck, we ended up with the exact amount of treasure needed to get to 37.5 million gold. Now this is cinema. All that was left to do now was spend all of that gold just to find out that... Oh no.
What's wrong?
We're 300,000 gold shy.
No way! Are you kidding?
Oh no.
It was 37.8, not 0.5. God damn it. I had done the math wrong. In a perhaps very anticlimactic end to our adventure, we begrudgingly went out to gather the last few coins I needed. And at last, my pouch was light, and I was the proud owner of the Dark Adventurer Shipset. Now, if you want to know how I made the 27 million gold prior to this episode, make sure to check out my video on how I became a skeleton. That episode details my journey to getting the skeleton curse, and as it just so happens, winning a lot of hourglass battles is also extremely profitable. You can find the code on screen right now. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to check out gamersubs.gg/Cliff to support my content. And of course, I hope you guys have a day filled with the riches on the sea. And until next time, peace.